Cedar Point has always taken pride in their roller coasters. Many even consider their collection to be among the best. With 16 different roller coasters to choose from, there should be something here for everyone to enjoy. With that said, I think the next question is, how good are their operations? Well, earlier this year, I wasn't hearing good things. The main complaint was staffing, but as the summer went along, I think Cedar Point was able to remedy this issue. I only took one trip to the point this summer, and that was during the last full weekend in August. We stayed on property for 3 days, giving us ample time to enjoy this massive theme park. For those who aren't familiar with this series, or maybe you need a refresher, how I judge their operations is by timing the dispatches. I'll take one point on the ride and track how long it takes for the next train to pass that same point. After watching multiple cycles, I add and divide to find their average time. I was able to gather data on 7 other major roller coasters. Top Thrill Dragster was closed, and I kinda forgot about Magnum. Anyways, let's start with the worst and work our way up. FYI, worst dispatch times, not worst ride. Steel Vengeance is considered to be the best roller coaster on the planet. That's a statement I really can't argue with. At the very least, Stevie is the king of airtime. Steel Vengeance was not having a good 3-day run during my visit. The ride would constantly break down and never opened on time. The best cycle I was able to get is 95 seconds, but the worst racking up to 3 minutes and 2 seconds, which is about 182 seconds. That's almost double its best run. I was able to time a total of 7 cycles. The average came to 119 seconds, just shy of 2 minutes, meaning Steel Vengeance was sending about 30 trains an hour. Steel Vengeance can operate with 3 trains that hold up to 24 passengers. When the ride was operating, it consistently ran with 3 trains. With that said, our total comes to 720 riders an hour. I know the park has really been working on the operations with Steel Vengeance, and if this coaster was running more consistent, I think this number would have been better. Anyways, when they work this all out, I think Steel Vengeance will see some great operational numbers. Valravn is a massive dive coaster that towers over all the attractions near the midpoint/front of the park. The best cycle I timed was 95 seconds, and the worst was at 135 seconds. I was able to track 9 cycles with an average dispatch time of 113 seconds, just under 2 minutes, meaning Valravn can send approximately 32 trains an hour. Valravn is capable of operating with 3 trains, each holding 24 passengers, but as we will soon find out with the other B&Ms at the park, it only operated with 2. The total comes to 760 riders an hour. Millennium Force was also struggling during my 3-day visit. The ride would constantly go down for various reasons, which means gathering an average dispatch time was rather cumbersome. Omitting its breakdowns, I was able to track 5 cycles, the worst run being 191 seconds, which is a little bit over 3 minutes, and their best time being 145 seconds, or about 2.5 minutes. The average dispatch came out to 165 seconds, meaning Millennium Force can send approximately 22 trains per hour. The math actually brings it to 21.8, but I rounded up for the sake of this content. Millennium Force can operate up to 3 trains, each holding 36 passengers, meaning this Giga Coaster can send 792 riders in an hour. I know this ride can do better, but again, I'm working with the data I was able to obtain. As a side note, during my visit, Millennium Force mostly operated with 2 trains. Steel Vengeance may be the best coaster at Cedar Point, but Maverick's my favorite. To my pleasant surprise, this Blitz coaster by Intamin was operating like a well-oiled machine and never went down during my entire stay. The best cycle I obtained was 45 seconds, and the worst was 1 minute and 1 second. I was able to observe a total of 13 cycles, with our average coming out to 50 seconds, meaning Maverick could send 72 trains an hour. Now, remember that Maverick loads 2 trains at a time. Not that that really matters because I'm still timing how long it takes for a train to pass a certain point on the track. The ride can operate with 6 trains holding up to 12 passengers. I believe Maverick was only operating with 5 trains, which I think is pretty normal. Our total comes out to 864 riders an hour. Considering that Maverick never went down, I think these are solid numbers. In my opinion, Maverick had the best operations, even though its output isn't as high as some of the remaining coasters on this list. Over the past 5 years, I don't think I've ever witnessed a line longer than 10 minutes on Rogueroo. Personally, I think this ride is overhated. I'm not a huge fan of Rogueroo, but it's still a solid floorless roller coaster that has a couple exciting moments. I only timed 3 cycles because I never really stood around the ride, but its best run was 126 seconds and its worst at 132 seconds. Its average cycle time came to 128 seconds, meaning Rogueroo can send 28 trains per hour. The ride operates with 3 trains, however, while I was there I only witnessed 2 trains on the track. Each train can hold up to 32 passengers, bringing our hourly dispatch to 896 riders an hour. For being the least popular roller coaster on today's list, I'd say that these numbers are looking pretty good. Our next roller coaster, Raptor, is the oldest B&M operating at Cedar Point. It's also the most intense B&M with snappy inversions and that crazy helix at the end of the ride. The best cycle I captured for Raptor is 95 seconds. The worst run came to 155 seconds, or about 2 minutes and a half, basically a whole minute slower than the best. I was able to track 8 cycles, bringing the average cycle time to 121 seconds, basically every 2 minutes, meaning Raptor is sending just shy of 30 trains an hour. The math came to 29.75 trains an hour, so I just rounded it up. Raptor operates with 3 trains holding a total of 32 passengers, bringing our total to 960 riders an hour. Just like Rogueroo, this coaster was also operating with 2 trains. Gatekeeper is the first roller coaster that park guests will interact with as they walk through the front gate. Because my family and I stayed on property, we never actually made it up to the front gate, so it was a little odd omitting that part of the park. I was able to track a total of 10 cycles. Gatekeeper had its best cycle at 91 seconds, basically a minute and a half, and its worst cycle timed at 116 seconds, just shy of 2 minutes, bringing the average cycle to 106 seconds, or 1 minute 46 seconds. That means Gatekeeper is sending about 34 trains an hour. This giant wing coaster has 3 trains capable of holding 32 passengers. Continuing with the trend, Gatekeeper only operated with 2 trains, but honestly, that's all it needed because the line never got longer than a walk-on. Our total came to 1,088 riders an hour, making Gatekeeper the roller coaster with the best operations at Cedar Point. Now, as I said earlier, I didn't get to time Magnum XL200, but judging how fast that ride was sending trains, I'd estimate that Magnum was doing slightly better than Gatekeeper. But sorry, I have no data to back that up. Also, in case you are wondering, Gemini for most of the time was only operating one side, so I don't think Gemini was hitting the best numbers in the park either. Looking over the data, I'd say that Cedar Point's operations are pretty good. The park wasn't really busy during my stay, so I was very impressed that Cedar Point continued to operate with multiple trains on their coasters, as other parks would have pulled more trains off the tracks. Even if their numbers never hit some of the best I've seen in the past, it's an improvement from earlier this season and late years ahead of 2020. There's always room for improvement, but comparing Cedar Point to the other theme parks where I tracked their operations this year, Cedar Point came out on top. Well, that wraps things up. I hope you enjoyed today's content. Please click on that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe. That way you continue to get great content brought to you by Extreme Thrills.